Wake that ass up.
Early in the morning.
The Breakfast Club.
Yep, it's the world's most dangerous morning show, The Breakfast Club. Charlamagne the God, Angela Yee. DJ Envy is still out on his college tour with his daughter, but we got a special guest in the building.
Yeah, he's missing out.
One of the stars of the new movie, Us, that if you didn't see this weekend, too bad, because we about to do a lot of spoilers in this interview. My man Winston Duke is here. Good morning, Winston.
Good morning. Good morning.
I need to know, when Jordan Peele came to you with this idea for Us, this crazy-ass idea, what did you think?
Well, he actually didn't tell me anything about the idea when we first spoke. He got on the phone with me, kind of had a 15, 20-minute conversation with me about who I was, like really personal things, you know. Where do I live, my attachments, family, you know. And then he said, I have an idea for a project. I'm working on something. I'd love for you to be a part of it. Let me know what you think. I was like, well, tell me what it is. He said, I don't want to color it for you. Just read the script and you let me know, because it's a big idea. I don't want to tell you or explain it the wrong way. Just read the script and you tell me if you want to be a part of it. Read that script, and pretty much what you saw was there on the paper.
Wow.
It was there on the page.
Did you understand it, or did you say, what the hell is this?
No, I understood it.
Okay.
I understood a lot of what was going on, and things changed as they always do in film. You know, it's a process. So different things get uncovered and we shift a little, but pretty much everything you saw was there. I sat with it and I remembered the experience that I had with Get Out, where after the movie I sat for like 2 hours and change just tearing it apart. Like Lupita had taken the Black Panther cast to see it while we were shooting. And we just went to a bar in Atlanta and just was like, did you see this? Did you see that? Man, that was genius. Did you see how he used cotton to like save his life? You know what that means? Do you see what that is?
That's exactly what we did after Us.
Yeah.
We spent an hour and a half after the movie discussing it and breaking down all the symbolism.
Yeah.
And as you're talking, you like, oh, that was dope.
Right.
So it brings a whole new layers to how good the movie was.
Because I was trying to predict what it was going to happen, or like try to figure it out during the movie, and I couldn't really do that a lot of. You know how sometimes you're like, oh, this is what's about to happen, especially in horror movies. You can kind of predict what's about to happen. But this one, I had no idea what was going on. And I know you guys really wanted people to go to the theaters without any expectations or knowing what was going to happen.
Yeah. He didn't want to color, like what he did for me, which was not coloring the experience of the script. He didn't want to color the experience for the audience by saying this is what it is. And in this America, he doesn't want to like alienate anybody before they consume it. Once you consume it, do what you want. Then we can have the conversations, any tough conversation that comes. But I think that's a bit of, you know, the intention behind just not coloring it for anybody so they can consume it. And then it'll work on them however they see fit.
I mean, I think it's actually broader than Get Out, because if Get Out was about racism, this is definitely about classism. So that's what I got from it. The movie is about classism.
I would say it's about all of it. I don't think anything that exists with black people at the center isn't about race. I don't think it's maybe leading with race. It's not primarily about race, but I think anything, because our skin is so politicized in this world, it has to do with race. It makes racial. It points out different racial dynamics and symbolism and assumptions. Like, it'll do that. But
even if, for example, I've read that it's about immigration and all the issues that we're having with immigration in the United States because of Donald Trump, where people are scared. People are not even acknowledging
xenophobia,
other people's humanity.
Yeah. I think it has to do with privilege and class.
Yes.
Right? So privilege and power. And all those things end up being a part of it. You know, none of these things exist mutually exclusively. You know, so race can't exist outside a dynamic of power, because it's a tool that functions for it. You know what I mean? It's a function of people trying to create and retain power. So they create a fictional narrative of race that has real effects in the world. But essentially, to me, as an immigrant that read about privilege, and essentially for me, the big commentary that I got attached to, and I attached my character to as well, was this concept of the American dream, right? And essentially how flawed it is, and how insecure it is, and different things in the film, in my opinion, had represented that. And the characters pretty much trip up over them. The characters, it doesn't serve them. It doesn't actually help them survive. And to me, it really spoke to a lot of just constructs that we attach ourselves to, masculinity.
Yeah, especially with your character, the myth of the big black man.
The myth of the big black man and the myth of the man in general.
Yeah.
You know, the big black man didn't serve him. It didn't work. Like the big black man actually crumbled because, again, it's a construct. It's not real. The myth of the man and the leader, you know, didn't work because who cares about the patriarchy in the zombie apocalypse when you just need
trying to survive?
When you just need an ally.
Yeah.
Who cares about who really helps you? You know what I mean? I think that's what's powerful about this genre in particular, right? Because you get to really hold a lens up to situations like this and blow it out. Make it really out there. Say it is the zombie apocalypse. And then you could say, if you're worrying about this right now, that's just ridiculous. But it's an allegory for real life.
We did yell at Gabe a lot at the screen.
Oh, yeah?
I'm not
I
gonna lie.
actually enjoyed his character in those funny moments a lot.
Yeah,
Like,
but we was yelling like, man, you pussy, Gabe!
they didn't do that. They didn't do that in my screen.
There was this one part, where everybody grabs Lupita and they pull her in the house and you outside with the kids. I'm like, Gabe, go after your wife.
So what's he supposed to do? He has the
kids. He
He's
has
got
the kids.
The kids went in though.
Because I distracted them to save the kids.
Oh, got you.
Yeah, see,
Got you,
there's
got you,
a
got you,
deeper
got you,
meaning.
got you.
Now,
There's
let's
so
talk,
much judgment here.
let's talk about Jordan Peele.
You see what he does? You see, he brings me on here
I know, to try to-
judge me the
I'm
next
judging
day.
Gabe.
And when he says people were screaming, "You pussy" at the screen, it was him.
No,
Okay.
no, it was in New York. It was,
I do
was
that when
definitely
I
him.
watch the show in the morning. It's okay.
You know
I do
he was
that.
the one.
I do that all the time.
He started the "You pussy" chant.
Like you.
Now, I want to talk to you about your conversation that you had with Jordan Peele, because you said he asked a lot of personal questions about you and where you came from. So since you're from Trinidad and Tobago, and then you came to Brooklyn as a kid, let's talk about what your experience has been like with the American dream and how you personally related to a movie like this.
Well, for me, it was one of my consumption of America was something that was happening before we even got here. Because a lot of your export is your media, your music, and your TV, and the idea of like American exceptionalism, right? So I thought before I came here and when we were moving here for, you know, better and different opportunities, I wouldn't say a better life, but different opportunities. You know, my sister, we moved here because my sister wanted to be a doctor, and the educational system seemed like it would offer a better pathway to that, right? So my idea of moving here was like, oh man, it's gonna be Fresh Prince. It's gonna be, you know what I mean? It's gonna be Family Matters, right? Where you got the picket fences and there's community and it exists in a certain way where you could go over to your friend's house and play and everything's da-da-da-da.
Nope. Hello, Brooklyn.
Then you moved to Brooklyn.
I moved to Brooklyn, Crown Heights in like the 90s and got robbed.
Immediately?
Not immediately. But like our first apartment got broken into. I think, you know, that was like very jarring, you know what I mean? Like that was an invasion. That changed, you know, the way we functioned as a family unit of two women and a little boy. When I got to middle school, I did get robbed, like, on the street, you know, in, what was it, 6th or 7th grade. Wow. So it was just like...
What did they take from you?
Sneakers?
Video cassettes.
Video cassettes?
Yeah, I was, like, walking home from school, and the library's on the way, so I had, like, these video cassettes of the U.S. Marshals. I'll never forget. You don't forget the day. And, like, just this dude just popped out from a corner. Was like, what's good, young nigga? What's good, nigga? And he was like, run your pockets. And he started, like, just going through my shit. And I kept, like, just walking while he was doing this shit. Just like, keep it moving.
Act like it's not happening. No one's touching me. No one's
just,
around me.
like, running his hands through my pockets. And I'm like, is nobody seeing this? Help me!
You know, in Brooklyn, we mind our business.
And I saw, like, I'm walking, like, half a block. He's still there. It's like, run your pocket. and 2 other dudes just like pop out. I'm like, yes. And then they go, yo, what's good, my dude? You having problem with this little right here? You having problem? I was like, you know him? These are your friends? So they took the cassettes.
So all 3 of them robbed you.
I was like, God damn, they took these cassettes. And then, I hear, oh, this is U.S. Marshal, I already seen this shit. And then they threw it at my head and like hit me.
Nobody told them to rob you.
They didn't tell me to rob
Like it's
me,
your fault.
1, and 2, because you saw the movie?
Yeah.
Now I'm mad at you.
Now you mad at me because you already saw the movie.
You're going to hold it against me for Wesley? Like,
Did you pick the videos up?
No, I didn't turn back.
How did that change you as a man, though? Because we talk about these social constructs, and we have to,
Yes.
you kind of got to adjust for survival. So did you start thugging out a little more?
No. Well, my immigrant mother and sister they were just like, you're not walking that route again. You're not doing this. I didn't go to school for a week because I just felt, I was traumatized. I'm not
Yeah,
gonna lie.
that's true.
I didn't like it. It was, the space felt aggressive at that time too. There was, different gangs, and then the movies they would show in school about American culture was like these gang movies to be like, don't be out in the streets.
Yeah.
So I just thought a drive-by would happen. Drive-bys didn't really happen in New York, but I didn't know this.
Just robberies, yeah.
Just minor,
Stick-ups, yeah.
minor robberies.
Yeah.
Little pocket massages, little things. But
That
it
kept
was
you on the
just-
right path, though.
It kept me on the right path, but it also wasn't creating a really good relationship with my surroundings. It was not really creating a good relationship with Brooklyn for me. So I didn't really experience Brooklyn until I left, went to school in the suburbs, and was like, man, this is totally different.
Yes.
Wasn't able to really see myself, and then came back to Brooklyn and was like, oh wow, this is Brooklyn. And started
Brooklyn probably was
traveling
gentrified at that point, too.
no,
though.
Not
it
yet,
wasn't
no.
yet.
Okay, okay.
Not
It took
yet,
a while.
not yet. It took about 2006, 2008. And it was drastic.
Yeah.
You saw it, because I remember being in New York, you would all the white people would get off the train by
The first couple of stops in
by
Brooklyn Heights.
Brooklyn Museum.
Yeah.
It would be it would just become black until Flatbush, right? And then you come back and it's peppered in. And then it's
People
1,
walking
2,
their
3,
dogs.
4, 5 black people still on the train, but it's white people now, all over the place. And Franklin Avenue was nothing's there anymore. You know what I mean? So it was very, very jarring. So for me, growing and getting big was a thing. It was I could protect myself.
Protection you, yeah.
And to be honest, it wasn't until after high school, coming back to Brooklyn, I walked that route where I got robbed that day for the first time.
Wow.
Yeah, I didn't walk that route again for years. You know what I mean? And then I was like, oh, I'm big as shit now.
Did that feel like a weight off your shoulder, kind of? Like you was kind of facing your fears, so to speak?
Yeah. It actually felt, it did. It did. It actually made an effort to go and walk that route again. You know what I mean?
Were you thinking, hoping you see the guys?
Nah.
I wonder what happened to them. They probably oh, that is the guy we took those cassettes from.
I have no idea. You never
Yeah.
know. You never know, but I've grown as a result of all these different experiences and actually entering so many different spaces and continuing to enter different spaces, especially as my life changed, that empathy has been my biggest tool through
Yes.
life. So I keep looking at people with lenses of just empathy. I forgave those dudes a long time ago.
Ooh.
I forgave those guys a long time ago, because the more I learned, I was they're coming from spaces of not a lot of opportunities. I understand the systems around them. I understand the systems around New York, urban and inner city New York, and black men and black people. And you're I just was at the wrong place at the wrong time with people who were going through shit.
So, that's interesting you talk about empathy, because when I see the movie Us, right, one of the things I got from it was everybody looks alike, because you should always see yourself in other people. That way you'll be able to empathize with them a little bit more. So you always had a certain view of the poor and disenfranchised, I'm sure. You always felt empathy for them.
I've always felt empathy because I come from development to some degree. I mean, that's looking at the world through that kind of lens, like developing nations, and I think that's a respectful word for it, but it still comes from a white supremacy lens. But for the sake of shorthand, we'll use that word. I come from a place where everything's in development. You know what I mean? I've seen, like, where I'm from, Tobago, it's 60,000 people. So really, really rich people live near really, 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 just poor people.
Yeah.
So I got to see a lot. I got to see a lot of life, but I also got to see mixing. I got to see carnival, where, like, it don't matter how rich you are, you're still winding up in the street. You eat the same food. So I got to see a lot of people, and I got to see them in process. And then the really beautiful thing about small countries is that they're really a microcosm for larger countries, because everything is on the surface. You get to see it immediately. If there's corruption, it's like Uncle Joe is corrupt. You know what I mean? That's kind of that's your cousin. You know what I mean? And you get to really see it happening and understand how it functions. And then you come to a place like this where the function is a little bit further away, but because your experience with it in the past, you could see it a lot faster.
So you've seen both sides?
I've seen both sides.
Like Lupita's character in the movie.
Oh, yeah. And that's the thing, that was the thing of viewing Gabe. I saw Gabe as so privileged, as coming from and existing within so much privilege that it becomes blinding for him. He can't be aware of so many things that are happening around him. He's unable to understand real danger unless it manifests in, to some degree, a white way of seeing danger, which is a threat to property.
Well, he didn't have all information either, though.
He didn't have all the information, but it was like they look like you. You know what I mean? That already, like that's paranormal.
Yeah.
But he's just like, it can't be that. You want my wallet?
When you were sitting there, he was like,
you want my wallet? Do you want my...
Take me to the ATM.
I was already thinking to myself, if he would have just listened, because his wife didn't want to go back, and he kind of glided over that, everything that she didn't want to do.
But she was afraid of her own karma, though.
Right, she was afraid of...
Done.
But for me, it was, I feel like Gabe Wilson could have prevented all that by just asking different questions in his marriage earlier.
Right.
You know what I mean?
He wasn't very understanding. He was like, come on, we're going to go to the beach.
But he's the patriarch. You know what I mean? He's a husband. And it's like, as long as she's smiling, she's good. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Instead of, I always saw him different than his doppelganger in the way that Gabe is a husband while the doppelganger is a partner. The doppelganger doesn't have a lot of privilege. He can't even see, really, which forces him to develop different senses. He's really great at hearing. He's a survivor, so anything he grabs a hold of, it stays. Everything becomes really tactile in the room. He's like touching things as he enters, and he's a partner. He's there to service and serve a function for his partner, Red. He's there to make sure the mission works, make sure she's not interrupted, and he's really tuned into her. While we were shooting, I found it really hard during those days as the Red family to be away from Lupita because of just how attached my character was to her. He had to really just be in service at all times.
Which is something Gabe never learns in the movie.
I think he gets to a place, he has a line coming towards, the later part of the movie where he says, Mom knows what to do. Trust Mom. Mom knows what to do. And I think that's a big shift for him, because he's now learned to trust in others and trust in their ability to do things that he can't do. It's not his job. It's not the man's job. It's not, I got this. I'm going to go fix this. It's she knows what to do. She can handle it.
Yeah, I got to go back and catch that, because we hated you to the end of the movie. Especially at the end, you had Lupita driving. I said, after all of that, you're not even going to drive, Gabe?
My knee.
Yeah, he couldn't. He couldn't drive. You got injured. He got injured early on.
See what he does?
Yeah, what's he supposed to do if they're trying to survive? Now, let
See
me
how
ask,
they do me, Bono?
when you were filming, what was the process like for that? Because since you're filming both sides, how does that happen since you're fighting yourself? How do they even do that?
That's a good question.
It was very practical. So we would shoot one side on one day, and we'd have doubles where we're talking to the doubles, and Jordan Peele would do our lines on the other side. So he'd make sure if the lines are coming earlier in the scene, we'd shoot maybe the Red family first, have the lines really come out, and we play that side fully committing to everything. And then when we're the Wilsons taking that in while they're talking to us, he would reenact everything we did, like mimicking us in every way, like really giving us something to play to, you know? He also just very practically did the schedule well. Like, it wasn't very many times we had to play both on the same day, which was really helpful.
Yeah, that'd have been complicated.
Yeah.
Do you ever act as the wrong version of the character during filming?
Nah, they're just so different that you really can't.
Yeah.
Like, if Gabe shows up, any kind of AB, it's real. It changes his function. Gabe plays the archetype of the clown, right? Which is just a classical archetype that allows you to be funny, to be inside the action, but not really defined by it, so you could still make commentary. You have a lighter buoyancy pace. It's one of a lot of privilege and fun, but fun in within a circumstance of extremis of privilege. You know, he also gets to speak truth to power in a way, because he's the only one classically that function is to be honest to the king, right? Only the clown through comedy and jokes can be honest to the power.
Yeah.
So he gets to do that. He gets to have a lot of heart and a lot of love. You know what I mean? So that's really the function of Gabe in the script as a character. So leaning into that function is big. And then his counterpart is functionally like the general. You know what I mean? Really strict, tight, literally functional, actually. It's to get things done.
Who would you like playing more?
I like them both equally, because that word I used earlier, empathy, I approached both of them. Thank you. I approached both of them with a lot of empathy. So I didn't judge either of them, which allowed me to get into both of them in a way where I felt I wasn't playing a bad guy on either side. And that's the other thing, was I didn't see either of them as bad guys or good guys. They both had issues, but were both created by their landscape.
Yeah.
Gabe is a product of privilege. Abraham is a product of no proximity to privilege, and what that does to the body.
It makes you
evolves.
Yeah, it makes you want to revolt.
Makes you want to revolt.
Yeah.
Develop different senses for survival that are strengths, that are powerful. You know, I always thought it was equally as horrific for both of these characters to see each other. So for Gabe to see this monster of a man from his lens, and then for Abraham to see and sense this, to some degree, weakness. You know, them seeing each other, they both have point of view. And I thought it was equally as horrific. While I was playing, I was like looking at myself like, look at this. This took him out with one hit. Like, look at this. Like, look at this guy over there. Look at this piece of shit. Look at the, you know, just like, that's how you're like seeing it, because they both have point of view. I never saw them as good or bad. It was just two individuals.
Yeah, I mean, especially like when you, like, did you know about the Hands Across America movement before the movie? I didn't. So when I Googled that, I was like, now I really understand. So I looked at that family different. I'm like, all these people were just revolting.
Exactly.
And that's what's going to happen. If America doesn't start taking care of its poor and disenfranchised and its oppressed and marginalized, eventually they're going to rise up against the system.
I feel like, but that's the conversation. I don't think the movie says that's what's going to happen, but it's a what if.
Yeah.
What if the real thing were to happen, the thing that isn't abandoned the day after it's done, the thing that doesn't really, that the thing that doesn't just abide and quench our liberal privilege need to feel like we're doing something and then we can go home and feel good. What if the real thing happen? What if the real change across the continent, which is also a metaphor for a global thing, because power and privilege is international.
Yeah.
You go to England with their post-colonial history, you see the wealth in the buildings. This was my first time in London, and I was like, wow. And I'm going around, I'm seeing everything, and to some degree I was like, it's cool to see it. And then I was like, I've been seeing this my whole life, actually. I've actually seen Buckingham Palace, because everything in the Caribbean is, to some degree, the bastardized version of trying to recreate that somewhere else. And people who've ingested and internalized that, like white supremacy, trying to be like, let me make this building like this. Let me make this state's building like this. Let me do this. And I'm like, I've seen this. But now to see where the money was funneled out of the country into, you're like, wow. And they're existing in it.
Absolutely.
They're existing in it, and they don't really think about it. They don't really challenge it. It's just there. And then you go to a place like Germany and Berlin, where we premiered the movie as well, a country who's had to deal with their own like civic and problematic bad lineage, but actually confront it. Those people also saw that movie and was like, this is really meaningful. Their engagement with the topics and the conversations at hand were direct. You know,
did you ever see that interview Tupac did with MTV News back in like '93?
Saw a lot of them.
And he was talking about, he was sitting in the studio and he was talking about the differences between the poor and the rich. And he was like, the poor, if they know that it's food in that other room,
on that door.
That's what that the movie reminds me of, that dialogue and that interview.
You know, it's really, it represented so many things for me, which got me excited, because I said, I want to be a part of this conversation. You know, Get Out had a particular conversation, and it allowed me to see myself in a genre I never really saw myself represented before. It allowed me to understand and redefine some words that come to me and I never thought of it, like gentrification. I felt Get Out was a big story about gentrification, right? But gentrification enacted through human bodies. And I didn't always put together how actually violent, I didn't use the word violent when associated with gentrification. I used a lot of different other words. I used problematic. I used tons of other words, but I never actually used violent.
Why do you think it's violent?
Because it's an erasure. It's erasure of people. It's erasure of culture. It's erasure. It's essentially making people refugees to some degree from the only place they know. There's a violence to that. It's emotional. It's psychological. It does a lot of things. And I never thought about that until I thought of it as literally entering your body, right? Taking your body. But there's a lot of bodies that we exist in all over the place. So that's when I said, man, that's really violent. And then it changed how I saw a word like gentrification, and changed how I saw words like black and blackness, you know what I mean? And then with our movie, so many other things get, you know, a black family also gets that idea of what blackness is and could be and should be, changes. The idea of leadership, what that could be, should be, changes, because you're seeing a woman do the work.
Yeah, she was.
And be effective, right? On screen. We experience it in real life. We see it in real life all the time, but we don't get to see that, especially with black women on screen, as often.
I thought it was ill that it was a black woman was the only person that was able to communicate, and was able to communicate the pain. But even when she did speak, you could barely hear her. I just thought that was some dope symbolism.
Also, I found it the entire time really refreshing to see two people who were also just created by the landscapes. They weren't good or bad just because we saw them being good. By the end of this experience, you know, I don't want to spoil anything, even though it's out and people have seen it.
Yeah.
I don't want to spoil the experience for anyone, but it really begs you to question who's the hero and who's really the villain. Yeah. Right? And how
both of them just wanted better.
Right.
Exactly. And how their spaces created them, right? Their spaces made them who they are. And that's not something that you see very often of blackness in cinema. It's either, oh yeah, you're thug number one because you're just the thug number one. You know what I mean? You're the bad dude because you're the bad dude. Or you're the preacher's wife and you're just good because you're good. Yeah. You know what I mean? And we don't get seen with a lot of dimension and nuance. And these stories really bring black psychology into the conversation and it puts it on the table. Like Moonlight does that beautifully. Sorry to Bother You does that beautifully. You know, Get Out did that and really interrogated just in naming something. Jordan Peele's a genius for this. He names it the sunken place.
Yeah, the sunken place.
The sunken place has also become this culturally accepted word where like as so-and-so in the sunken place.
I think us is going to do that too, though. When I saw it, I was like, okay, this is an acronym for United States. And I heard him say that yesterday, but I had caught that prior. And I still like the example of people looking like each other, and you should see yourself in other people. That
see
right
yourself
there,
in
if
other
you see yourself
people.
in other people, you're going to have empathy.
Also, it's about the constructs you attach yourself to. You could be Black Lives Matter. You could be all these things. You could be LGBTQ. You could be everything, right? But if you have bought into a problematic system, right? You've bought into it and you help it and you support it and you live by it to some degree, you're also taking on the sins of that thing.
That's why we all get mad at police. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But all of us.
Yeah.
You and your phone. You know what I mean? People lose arms, legs, and things like that. Just get the pieces and minerals for your phone. What if all those people showed up at your doors like,
yikes,
I want my shit.
Yeah.
And you're like, no, I got donkey of the day.
Yeah.
Like, don't get me.
Yeah.
I'm helping. And
That's like,
like,
I'm sorry to bother you when all the horses show up at the end.
yeah,
Like,
exactly. And it's like, no matter how much you think you're helping, if you're really a part of the problem, you're a part of the problem.
Right.
And it actually indicts.
You could donate money if you're still part of the problem. It doesn't erase.
Save you from consequence. The day of judgment, right? It was the day of judgment.
Jeremiah 11:11.
Yeah. And it was like, no matter what. And it actually, I found it powerful because it indicted us all. I saw it and I was like, oh man, this man who went to Howard, right? He's connected to blackness. He's connected to community. That's communicated in, you know, on his chest. You know, say it with your chest, like he's doing it. And he still has to fight the fight to survive and survive this encounter. They're not giving him a pass because historically you've been oppressed too. You know?
How did the kids feel? Like, they did such a great job in the movie.
Man.
And how was that whole process for them? Because I'm sure that couldn't have been easy.
You know, the kids were great. And it's always, you know, cool to watch kids act. I've watched kids act on stage. I've seen kids act on screen. And kids just show up with this level of bravery where they don't second guess themselves. They just do it. You ask them to be scared. That little girl, Shahadi,
she was amazing.
Shahadi was just like bawling. It's like, hello, Shahadi. Good morning. Like, you ready for this? You know what I mean? She's ready to go. The little boy, Evan, just ready to go every day. You wanna do it? He's ready to go. And there's so much to learn from just watching how readily available they are. They just jump into the belief. They don't second guess the imagination. And as an artist, for me, I had to remember that. I was like, don't get too heady with it. Just be. You understand the intellectual and you can make it actionable, and then just trust in the circumstance. Just be.
How much of a blessing is this movie for you? Because I was told that ever since M'Baku, it's been hard for you to get roles. People can't see you outside of M'Baku.
It wasn't that people aren't seeing me outside of M'Baku. It was just I was reading a lot of this similar things. A couple things came by that felt interesting, but didn't have the social footprint that I would want in my work, especially early in my career right now. I want to be in conversation with things. I want to be in conversation with culture. I want to be in conversation with people. I want to be in conversation with who I am. And the work that was available wasn't doing that. And then this just came, and it just in a basic way, outside of all the other conversations, the what if of it all attracted me so much.
Was Lupita already attached to it?
Lupita was already attached to it.
I'm sure that helped too.
That helped a lot. That helped a lot. You know, just knowing that I had, you know, a friend involved, a person that I trust, and I've seen her do a lot of work, and she's seen me do so much at school too. That
y'all went to Yale together, right?
Yeah. I went to Yale School of Drama, and you just work, and it's part of the curriculum that you see everything else that's being done at the school.
So y'all were friends at Yale?
Yeah.
Wow. So
it's only so each class of actors is only 16 people.
And then blacks is probably less.
Blacks is 2 to 3 per class, and sometimes 1 per class.
Oh, so y'all been best friends for a long time.
Yeah, so it's really small. So the whole school was just, we had a club called Folks that Angela Bassett and, you know, her cohort really started while they were there. And that allows all the students of color, the black students especially, to just meet up and cook, order food, go see plays, travel if they need to, like to go see a show or a movie. They give a budget for it. The school now subsidizes the program. We also get to meet and sometimes plan shows that we want to do. If August Wilson is not in the curriculum, we'll do August Wilson, you know.
That's great.
In the, you know, in at one of the smaller theaters, you know, student organized. So
y'all on a real journey together.
Yeah.
Did you know that acting was your calling? Like, when did you find that out?
I wanted to do almost everything. I wanted to be I wanted to be a doctor. I wanted to be a lawyer. I wanted to be a cowboy. I wanted to be
cowboy.
Everything.
So acting's
A Dallas
perfect.
cowboy or a cowboy
That's
cowboy?
the cowboy.
Acting's perfect because you could be all those things
I mean,
too.
You too big for a horse, Winston.
Hey, don't limit me.
That's the whole point.
Charlamagne. Don't limit me.
Have you ever tried to
It's
ride a horse?
Winston the God. Okay, that's who I am.
You
I'm
are.
gonna have a thing up there too.
Have you ever tried to ride a horse?
I did. It was a big horse.
Oh, okay. See?
Yeah. I mean, I like just doing things that are a little bit outside the box.
So how did
too.
acting come about? Like, how did you say this is it?
For me, it was really, I've always been around story but didn't know it. So culture for me was everywhere. Caribbean culture is a big storytelling culture, one. And then being an immigrant here, you heard my story. So I became very reclusive and a bit shy as a result of some of those interactions. And I was in the house. I was reading. I was watching a lot of TV. I was watching a lot of movies. And that became my outlet. You know, I was reading a lot of comics and things like that. And that was my outlet. And then it clicked one day, just watching a lot of sitcoms. Gabe Wilson is very much a sitcom dad to me. I didn't have a dad in the house in that way, so Uncle Phil was what I had. You know what I mean? So, and watching these sitcoms, watching all of them, Frasier, everything, just reenacting some of the scenes and being like, I actually really enjoy this. Until high school, a teacher just said, you were doing a presentation, and when you got up in front of people, it's the first time I saw your personality. Because you're so in yourself. Usually, you got up there and I saw your personality. You need to do theater. And she went and signed me up for the next theater show, and the rest is history.
Wow,
We're
so
glad
she
she
really got
did.
the ball rolling for
Yeah.
you.
I know you only got a
That's
couple more minutes. I want to ask you because
This was quick. Wow.
you know
You have a packed schedule,
you got a packed
so there's a movie out.
But I'm sure in this era you're gonna get a lot of backlash for the role of Gabe. So what would you say to people who say, "Oh, portraying a black man is weak"?
I think I'm portraying a particular black man. I'm portraying an individual. We're all different individuals. I think Gabe abides by a lot of respectability politics.
He seemed like a great husband.
Yeah.
Aside from the fact that he wasn't the best at fighting.
Well, Can you fight? Yeah, he stumbled. He didn't even. He can't fight.
I'm looking at you.
He
You asked me,
can't
can I
fight.
fight?
Other
Not
than
you.
that,
He can't fight. He can't fight. Anytime somebody stutter on the question, you fight. Well,
I can run.
I can stand.
What I'm saying, what you say?
I could scrap.
6'9". Dude, I'm like, what? You?
No, it's.
I mean, look.
But that's the thing. He's a man, but he's a particular man influenced by a lot of different things around him. He's attached himself to a lot of different privileges and things like that, and he's a specific individual.
Right. Not a stereotype.
Not
of
a
what
stereotype, and I think a lot of people know more black men like this, and he's not a
Absolutely.
bad black man.
Absolutely.
He's a father. He is present.
And he's
he
never
loves
been
his
in a
wife.
situation
He
like
ain't
that
cheating,
before.
You know what I mean?
People
That's
always
not the
talk about.
conversation.
People always talk about what they would do. I'll do this until you get in that situation.
If you're not a fighter and have to fight every day, I don't care what you say. I'm not gonna go fight a UFC dude. That's not
Hell
my
no.
job.
I check ears all the time.
Exactly. Oh, you got
cauliflower? Oh, man.
You see how much strength that you see how much strength that they
right.
had. There was nothing he could really do about it.
Exactly, but that's the whole thing is that we have perceptions of masculinity.
Yes.
And masculinity just always trumps logic.
Yes.
You know? We have ideas of what a black man should be. Every black man needs to know how to fight. Why?
Right.
For what? What have I
He
been
did his
actually
best.
He did what he could do. He rose to the occasion and they had to survive the encounter. I think it really gives people freedom to kind of be who they are and be in the skin that they're in. You know what I mean? If there's any backlash, I gladly welcome the conversation. And that's actually why I did it.
Yeah.
It's not for people to say I loved what you did. It's not for people to say I love this movie only because it'd be nice. But it was just to have people say, this is what I saw and felt, and this is what it did to me. This is what it makes me think about. This is how it's changed how I look at this. Or I didn't think that at all. I wasn't challenged by that at all. Why'd you do that? I'm open to conversation. Absolutely. Because I'm a big guy, and this size and color has made it like that. It's a danger for me not to be overly articulate. You know what I mean? If I wasn't overly articulate, I could be shot in the streets for nothing. If I'm just this passionate, usually in front of a lot of people, they're like, whoa, calm down.
Yeah,
I'm not arguing with it.
You do the Jabari chant around cops, you getting shot.
You getting shot.
Yeah.
So being overly, I'm gonna shoot him.
I don't know. I don't know what's going on. Relax.
But it's like that's the whole thing. I love being in conversation, and I think I'm prepared for conversation. That's one of my skill sets. I'm prepared for conversation. I'm prepared to talk about what we did and the meaning of it. You know, I hired a dramaturg to go through my script and research the different themes and elements, so I had a really good intellectual understanding of what we were doing. You know, I had a really good understanding of the American dream and how blackness functions with it, and the sacrifices of blackness for attainment and upward mobility and all these different things. Those were conversations I've been having for the last 3-4 months in my circles, right? Because of this job and because of this character. So anybody who want to pull up.
Pull up.
That's right.
Hey, man, Winston Duke, we appreciate you. I love us personally. I love the conversations that it is going to start. And, yo, it's a pleasure to watch you,
Congratulations.
man.
Excellent movie. I know everybody's going to see it, and it's going to exceed what they thought the expectations was going to be in the first place. And I know you have a lot more coming up, so we can't wait to see you in the future as well.
Winston Duke, it's The Breakfast Club.